Arm yourselves, America. You're listening to Defenders Live. Tonight, I have with me a one HoloNet representative, Matt Holloway. Matt, how's it going tonight? You are
doing well, bro.
You are silent on your mic. Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, well, I had to do it on every conference call for the entirety of my career, so this should be no different.
Not at all, except for the fact that you were on video stream as well, so everybody saw your mouth move, but nothing happened.
Hey, if the greatest YouTubers in the world can get away with it, then so can I.
Sure, exactly, and that's the best part about it. Now, tonight we have a couple things going on. We want to address sort of a splitting of conservative thought in recent months and weeks and things like that. Between apparently there are people out there in the conservative party, conservative. I can't say party, but conservative mindset in the think tanks that are trying to start driving a wedge in between conservatism and libertarianism. Like, for some reason, that's two divergent streams of thought. Anyway, the reason why I bring this up is because there's a talk that happened at the Family Legislators Conference recently. We have a couple clips that we're going to play. We have a couple things that we want to get to. But before we do any of that, I want to make sure you guys understand the importance of everything going on here. And by that, what I mean is I want you to understand where your money goes. You see, Patriot Mobile is one of the best phone companies out there. What I mean by that is they are the only phone company out there that not only gets rid of all the hidden fees and all the crap that you don't want to deal with on a daily basis, plus they have, people on the phone that you can talk to all the time. It's amazing. But they also don't fund things that you don't want to fund. By that I mean Planned Parenthood, any other liberal cause that you don't want funded. Every other mobile company out there funds things that you stand against. Stop funding the liberal agenda. I mean, it's really simple. You just go to patriotmobile.com. You tell them that Mojo sent you, or you go to 1-800-A-PATRIOT. That's 1-800, the letter A, Patriot, or 1-800-272-8746. They can buy out your contracts, $500 a line or $1,500 per account credits. Stop funding big mobile today. Go out there. Go to patriotmobile.com. Now, Matt, when it comes to dividing the country, when it comes to doing things, we normally think about left and right and this whole thing. But with this going on, I mean, this was a talk from Dr. What's his name?
David Azzerad, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, and he is from the Heritage Foundation.
Heritage Foundation, which I respect. I highly respect.
Oh, yeah, I cite them as a source repeatedly.
Time and time again, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The Heritage Foundation has an inestimable record. I mean, they're on the front lines right up there with the Cato Institute, right up there with Americans for Prosperity. Fantastic record. And this just came out of left field and nowhere and is making me look at the Heritage Foundation a little bit differently. I'm trying not to let one particular member's opinion change what I think of the whole organization, but it is making me reevaluate.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. It's not just one particular member's understanding of this. It's a 20-year member who's been educating those in the Heritage Foundation for the past 20 years of that. He's a doctor. He's a PhD. He's supposed to be this high-level conservative. And yet, you have things like this clip right here.
There's this disconnect between the account we give of our principles and the lives we lead. This is a result of the fact that in the 1950s, conservatives decided to form an alliance with libertarians to defeat communism.
Wait, sorry, hold on. First off, what?
Yeah, seriously.
Wait, conservatives formed an alliance with the libertarians to defeat communism.
And defeat it they did.
Wait, let's let him continue here.
What?
Oh, hold on.
I think it made perfect sense back then. You had this totalitarian ideology that wanted the state to swallow everything. Both conservatives and libertarians felt that there was a problem with that, and they said, let's team up to defeat it. And defeat it they did.
And defeat it they did?
Not based on what I see on a daily basis.
And defeated they did, except for all of the communists in the world and China going back to the emperor status and Russia pulling into the one man ruling all parties. Oh, and North Korea and...
And New York elected Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, that one.
Yes. This is where I had an immediate disconnect. I mean, he's saying there's a disconnect between the account we give of our principles and the lives we lead. There's a disconnect between my prefrontal lobe here and the information that he just spouted. Communism was not defeated with the end of the Cold War, with the fall of the Berlin Wall. I mean, it's been well documented. I mean, you Google it, a New York Times article pops up that says, no, we didn't actually win. And when the New York Times gets that right, that's kind of difficult to square.
Yeah.
It's widely held and widely agreed that communism was not defeated at the end of the Cold War. The Soviet Union was defeated, but communism as a concept lives on.
No,
it lives on.
Not only that, but it lives on in our economic system. It lives on in our education system. It lives on in the universities. It lives on in our government as of today.
And in regimes around the world where it is still in place, in places like Cuba. I'm sorry, Venezuela can call themselves a people's socialist nation all they want. It's communism. It is seizure of the methods of production by the state through force. That is textbook Leninist communism.
Right. So, and you call if you call something socialism, people think that it's just, it's a nice thing. We're trying to help out the little guy. But all socialism is a soft bridge to communism. And if you put the word democratic in front of it, it doesn't change it. It just means that people voted it in instead of a dictator coming into place all at once.
Well, Ayn Rand once was very well quoted as saying that the difference between socialism and communism is the difference between suicide and murder. I'm paraphrasing there.
It's funny that you'd bring up Ayn Rand because he's comparing Randianism, is what he calls it,
to being Tocquevillian.
To the Tocquevillian conservatism of tradition.
Doesn't Tocquevillian always sound a little bit like it's a group of bad guys from a comic book?
It really does. But
the Tocquevillians, I digress.
First off, if you're going to say Tocquevillian, what do you actually mean there? Because this was a guy from France who came to America to figure out why it was still working. Because by their intent and by their understanding, there was no way that America would have survived as much as it did, as far as it did, with the placement that it did. And you know what? If you want to go de Tocqueville on anybody, then you should understand that one of the reasons why he said that America was great, which, by the way, it's a paraphrase, was because the people, the individuals in that country who made sure that they stood up for their rights and made sure that they were understanding of their civic duties and the religion that was based in their lives.
Well, the old saying is the founders believed that America would only succeed. Our government could only succeed
for a just
with a moral and just people.
Yeah. And it's funny that we have to bring that up in this conversation because, I mean, I have to say where we found this because I found this and that's what really drew me to this. Like I said, it was the Family Legislators Conference, and that is housed and set up by Wall Builders, another organization that I love. I mean,
I mean, David Barton.
David Barton, and his family, he has the largest private collection of original documents from our foundation. And he is the utmost historian when it comes to understanding our foundations and our founding fathers and the faith that drove them. And to sit here and have to argue with somebody that he brought up onto stage at a conference doesn't make sense to me.
It's like I feel a little like I'm underdressed somehow.
I mean, I'm not underdressed, but I'm repping. I'm repping, but at the same point in time.
Barton, you say in the same breath as Beck. I mean, you say in the same breath as Jonathan Dunn, as so many other staunch advocates of American exceptionalism and everything that makes America great. It's just very, very difficult to suddenly hear something where the record skips.
Yeah, it's very awkward.
What? I told you, we went back and forth on Facebook about this a couple of days ago, and I told you there's an expression where I grew up in Jersey, yeah, but no.
Yeah, but no.
Yeah, but no. And not yeah, but do, yeah, but no. Where somebody says something that there's a lot there that you agree with, but it started wrong or it ended wrong. And that's the immediate conclusion I came to with this entire argument was, yeah, but no. There's a lot of good things that Dr. Azzerad does bring up toward the end. We're going to get to that. I'm getting a little bit ahead of us. But when you start from the premise that we defeated communism at the end of the Cold War, it's going to be fruit of the poison tree. It's everything that flows from that premise is going to have an issue because it flowed from that premise.
It makes sense, right? I mean, first off, communism isn't dead. So
not hardly.
That's a big start there. And I think this leads into that second cut that you sent me. Is that correct?
Yes.
Let's roll that and see how that works out.
30 years ago, the Berlin Wall fell.
Yeah.
And then this alliance wasn't reconsidered. So that here we are in a world where communism is long gone, and we still consider libertarians to be our allies on the right.
Okay, first off, two things. One, the fall of the Berlin Wall was not the fall of communism. It just wasn't. It was the hiding away of communism. It was the shushing of communism. It was the let's go underground of communism. And
it didn't even represent the fall of the USSR. The USSR didn't fall in proper for a considerable time after the breach of the Berlin Wall.
There was a huge economic collapse that really needed to occur for that to happen.
Not to mention a coup that almost kicked off World War III. That's also a thing that happened in there. A lot of people just tend to lump this all together and mush it together. Berlin Wall fell down, USSR rolled over and croaked. Communism loses, capitalism wins, Ronald Reagan's a hero.
Yay!
I mean, I realized that you and I were about 5 when this happened, but still.
Wait.
Bad history is bad history.
Google it real quick. When was the fall of the Berlin Wall? Because you're making me feel old.
The Berlin Wall was November 9th, 1989. The dissolution of the Soviet Union was not until 1991.
89. Yeah, I was 4. No, 3. I was 3.
You were 3. I was also 3 because I think we're actually the same age. But yeah, that's. I realized this was a while ago, especially for we millennials who don't remember 2004.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so you take all this history that happened, you lump it together into one central point, one point of singularity, and it's communism lost that day. No, they really did not. But we're beating a dead horse here. Communism's still alive and kicking, and anything that proceeds from that point is automatically going to have an issue.
That is very true. But you know what? So speaking of beating a dead horse, you know what's really funny?
What?
Beating a dead horse. And by that, I mean liberals. You see, when you go to rightongame.com, go to rightongame.com. You use the promo code Mojo50. You get a 10% off discount. The reason why I bring this up is because the rightongame.com is a board game about mocking the left. And why, you may ask? Well, because mocking the left just feels so right. You know? A trigger warning, by the way, for anybody who does actually buy the game. Microaggressions are contained in the box. If you are a millennial snowflake, you will be offended by its content. Retreat to your safe space. That is highly recommended. Once again, you go to rightongame.com, use the promo code MOJO50. You get a 10% off discount, and you get to play with wonderful topics like race hustling, wussification of America, the Earth snobs, Islam abomination, Hollywood hypocrisies, and so many, many more. RightOnGame.com. RightOnGame.com. Use the promo code MOJO50 and get 10% off. Now, let's finish this second cut here because I think it might be something here.
But if you look at the central threats confronting the country today, it's not statism and central planning.
No. Wait, what?
It's the collapse of the family, the collapsing fertility rates, the unsustainable immigration levels we have, the rise of China, the cancerous spread of identity politics across the country, the loss of a unified idea of we the people. And on all of these fronts, the libertarians are a liability.
Wait, sorry. Let me I need this real quick. The libertarians are a liability on all of these fronts. What?
So if they're a liability, is my insurance going to go up?
I think they're a financial liability more than anything else. So no, it's not going to be. It's just like having it's like having a balance sheet. You know, you have your assets, you have your liabilities, and you just kind of balance it out. No.
Well, I have the windshield waiver, so I'm not liability only anymore.
Oh, that's good. Good man. That's a smart move right there. But no, so okay. Libertarians are a liability on everything. On all of those fronts. Really?
So essentially we're saying that libertarians are either contributing to or effectively the cause of all of these problems, or have an antithetical stance to conservatives.
Right. And you know what? There are points of Libertarian Party principles and ideas that do stand against, quote, traditional conservative ideas. And there are ones that I don't agree with because I'm not a full libertarian. I'm more of a constitutionalist. One of those is open borders. There's a big push for open borders under the libertarian understanding, but that's because it's a market-based system. They want open borders because they want true free market systems throughout. The only problem with that is there's never been free markets throughout the entire world because every other country is owned, the market is owned by the government in some way. So for me, I'm a protectionist when it comes to the border. So in that way, yeah, okay, I gotcha. That's one. That's open borders, dude. I
believe in state sovereignty, so.
Yeah, and so do they. So do libertarians. Libertarians believe in state sovereignty. They believe specifically that every state should be able to have all of their rules and that shouldn't be superseded by the federal government because there should be, they believe as libertarians that the closest to you should have the most understanding of power around you because they're the people that you have control most over.
The laboratories of democracy.
Right.
Yes.
And, you know, I think he actually goes into that portion later on in the thing where he's talking about the 50 states and everything. But so here's the thing. Libertarians share common policies when it comes to economic issues, when it comes to the minimum wage, when it comes to entitlements, when it comes to excessive regulations, when it comes to tax complications, and when it comes to the states' rights. Also, pretty much all of the first 10 amendments, they believe wholeheartedly in. It's that thing, that idea, that principle. And they also believe in we the people. They aren't, libertarian perspective isn't self-interest overall. It's actually, because here's what I mean by that. When you utilize self-interest, all it is if it doesn't affect me, I don't care. Right? Mm-hmm. But at the same point in time, what are some things that libertarians do actually push for? Well, they push for legalize drug use. Why? Well, it isn't because they all want to do drugs. It's because they think that the people should have the power to control over what drugs they use and do not use. They don't think the government should have that right to tell them that. And that goes with pretty much everything.
They're looking for the legal setup of the 1800s, essentially, where it was regulated at the state and local level as to whether something could be purchased or sold.
Right.
And there is merit to that concept. Meanwhile, the conservatism that Dr. Azzerad seems to be touting here is more a moralistic conservatism, where the concept that the federal government has the place and has the obligation, the moral duty to legislate morality for the entire country, that seems to be a concept that he's embracing. And that's something that many constitutionalists and many libertarians will push back against strongly. But I think the biggest disruption here, the biggest failure of this argument, is the concept that we no longer need to unite ourselves with libertarians and conservatives because there's no longer a reason to unify. There is every reason to come together on what we agree with.
Oh, yeah, for sure. There's a huge reason. I mean, if you're talking about government encroachment, if you're talking about big government policies and all of those things, there is more that we agree on as a group, which is why I consider myself a constitutional libertarian, which is, a pull away from conservatism, because conservatism overall isn't necessarily constitutional.
It's the same concept of, we no longer have a common enemy. Now we have to start divesting amongst ourselves. This is a purity test for the conservative movement in the United States, and it's a poison pill.
Right. It is a big poison pill. It's like
if we go into 2020 tearing ourselves apart, we're handing the reins over.
Right. And so here's the thing. When it comes to the moral issue, right? So let's just kind of turn into that for a second, all right? So the moral issue of guidance by the government. He uses the example of, well, what is it about thou shalt not kill? What about that? Why do we have murder laws? We have murder laws because we understand that everybody's rights start and end where the others begin,
the second you murder someone, you're infringing upon their rights. And you're no longer a libertarian at that point.
Right, exactly. So the thou shalt not murder. Yeah, that is a moral issue. True. That is also a moral issue. And it started out as an moral issue. But it is a factual understanding that our rights end where another person's begins. So if you're going to use the argument, well, what about thou shalt not kill? Duh.
And even if that wasn't in, the United States Code, even if you couldn't locate that in the USC, there would still be state laws barring murder. There would still be local laws barring murder.
Yeah.
It comes down to continuity of law for the United States overall. And that does not provide you with carte blanche to start legislating all forms of morality.
Right.
Now, and we have to take great care to decide what laws we put in as far as legislating the moral code goes.
Very true. And I will say this. There used to be a thing where in every court in the nation, there were the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments were there. They're a signpost. They're something you can look at because guess what? Man makes rules. Rules are made to be broken. The only entity that actually makes laws is the one who created us. And I don't care who you believe that is the only one that can create a law. Laws of gravity, laws of understanding, laws of relation. They're all there. And if you break them, obviously you break other things too. But that sound right there means that we're going to go to a commercial break. We will be right back in about 2 minutes. There we go.
And the commercials are running.
The commercials are running, man. It's good
I'm
times.
I'm so glad I have the transcripts
Why? What's going on?
because I cannot hear the sound bites.
You can't hear the sound bites?
I cannot hear the sound bites. That's why I kept overshooting them.
Oh man, I am so
That's
sorry.
why I was overshooting where he stopped.
That is weird because everything else is playing.
Yeah, no, I heard the play out. I heard the diddly for AOC.
Oh, you know what? Here, I'll do this on the last one. I can set it up.
Okay.
I can.
Yeah,
set
it's
it
like
up.
I feel like such an idiot because I'm coming in after, but
No. I got you, dude. I got you. I'll get this last one in here. I hate it when it does that junk. Like,
by the way, I just went over to Subscribestar instead of Patreon.
Subscribe Star? Who's that?
That's an alternate funding source that was recommended by Sargon of Akkad.
Oh, right, because he got cut.
Yeah, he got cut from Patreon. I'm like, well, it's a matter of time.
Yeah.
I just heard him. If you popped it.
Yeah, I did just now. So, you heard it?
Yeah.
Good. I put it on a different sounder set.
Yeah, I need to buy a board.
So I was utilizing the Spreaker. This is the first time I've actually used Spreaker in ages. I was utilizing Spreaker as a soundboard setup, but apparently that was a bad idea for you.
I'm like, oh, I'm gonna guess where you paused that, and
Yeah. All right.
I'm just gonna keep nodding.
And we're back. You're listening
Yes,
to The
indeed.
Defenders Live. This is Steven Airey here with Matt Holloway. And we're breaking down an argument called the conservative argument against libertarianism. And up to this point, the strawman argument that has been bringing into place really haven't been standing their ground. At last you left our heroes. They were discussing the moral guidance of... Anyway, back to it. But so, okay. Other than the moral understandings and everything else, so thou shalt not steal. Okay, let's do that. Thou shalt not steal. Well, what are you doing when you're stealing?
You're infringing upon somebody else's right to own property.
Okay, thou shalt not covet somebody's wife. What are you doing?
You're infringing on someone else's marriage.
Okay. All right. So I think we understand this. It's basically libertarianism is very simple. Don't. And that's the whole thing. So here's the deal. This is why this is where he kind of boils it down for a little bit. He boils it down to something very simple. He's like, I can't believe that these people would bring it down to something to a 5-year-old understanding of what's going on. It doesn't make sense that they would try to set up an entire system. Hold on. I'll give you the entire quote actually instead of trying to paraphrase here. Cuz it just doesn't, yeah. Quote, when I debated David Boaz, who is the vice president in education at the Cato Institute, he tells the audience, and he's proud of this. He quotes, everything you need to know about libertarianism you learned in kindergarten. And I shake my head in disbelief. I'm like, you're proud of this?
Well, they made it accessible.
Right?
That's the whole concept of the basic argument of don't hurt people and don't take their stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's the basic argument. That is literally getting everything down to its bare bones nothingness. Okay.
With no nuance.
What is libertarianism? Zero nuance. What is libertarianism? Don't hurt people. Don't take their stuff. Limited government for all. We want to take over the world to leave you alone. You know, that's libertarianism in a what is it? In a nutshell.
in a nutshell, I wanted to take a second here because I had a fortunate turn of memory,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to point out my own hypocrisy here.
Uh-oh.
Okay, June 2nd, 2016. I was a contributor for theblaze.com, and this article's still up on the Blaze if you want to check it.
Oh, no.
I wrote an open letter to the Libertarian Party. I really tried to take you seriously for about a week.
Yeah.
And this was immediately after Ted Cruz suspended his campaign, and I was not yet prepared to board the Trump train.
Yes.
So I started looking at the Libertarian Party as a viable option. I was a big fan of Austin Peterson, and then I listened to a disastrous interview with John McAfee, and then they had their convention where a man proceeded to strip down on stage and do a little boogie.
Yeah.
And
almost as bad as the rent is too damn high party.
Almost as bad. So I wrote a rather scathing open letter to the Libertarian Party. So
Matt, what's wrong with you?
am guilty of shunning the Libertarian Party. So I just wanted to point that out.
You have changed your ways, Matt, and you are a young sprite. This man is like in his 50s. Okay, he's he's in his 40s or 50s. He's in his 40s.
I'd really
or 50s.
say I'm more of a Mountain Dew than a Sprite, but that's all right.
Oh, very nice, very nice. But this man has been 20 years down this road, and I don't get. Okay, so bringing this back to the conversation that he was having, that he was going through. I believe this next clip is a yeah but nah. Is that that's what we're going with this?
Yeah but nah.
This is a yeah but nah. All right, hold on, okay. Let's start playing this.
Talk about states' rights. No. That term has more baggage than a Samsonite factory. You say states' rights, people hear segregation now, segregation forever.
What? Wait, hold on. What?
No. What? Yeah.
What?
This is not the 1960s.
This isn't the 1930s.
Goldwater's not running for president.
I think you need to back up just a hair, buddy.
And that joke about the Samsonite factory was terrible.
That was a bad joke. It really was.
That was a dad joke, and I have 4 children. That was a dad joke.
I also have 4 children, and that was a really bad dad joke. Anyway, he continues.
The other thing I'd like to remind you of is if you do a little word search on the Constitution for the word states' rights, you will not find it.
Okay.
No, you think? I just want to... if this were my show, I would have the censor button ready, and I would say, no blank, Sherlock. Yeah, we know. States' rights never appears in the Constitution at any given point. That is a colloquial term.
Hold on. Stop. Time out. There is an entire section.
Yes, called powers reserved to the states. It is in the 10th Amendment.
You are literally just arguing the meaning of a phrase. What some people would call semantics.
Could you please explain to me the meaning of the word is?
No, I can't, and I won't, Mr. President.
What do you mean by the?
What is the word? What's the word? The. All right.
We have
semantic
rights
argument
as
yeah.
individuals. States have no rights. They have powers.
He is literally just going to a semantic argument.
Semantic argument for 100, Alex? Ding.
Yeah. Yes, we know that. We know that when we talk about states' rights, we're talking about the powers given to the state by the people through the Constitution. And
all powers not specifically enumerated to the Congress are reserved to the states and to the people.
Right.
So basically that, in a nutshell,
means states'
gives
rights.
you a full explanation. It's states' rights, and states' rights are individual rights.
I understand that, and I mean, when we go to states' rights, we think about states' rights, and everybody's like, oh, the state. Nobody likes the state. But you know what? There are other things going on. It's not just states' rights. It's our Second Amendment. It's our freedom of speech. These are all rights, but they're also powers They're
And
our individual powers. And when it comes to our powers of speech, our powers of bearing arms, there's nothing better than going to Tar River Arms. And by the way, that means traguns.com. You see, Matt thought I was going to continue rolling in through the argument, but instead I threw a commercial at him. Tar River Arms is a modernized online firearms sales. They accommodate all the online generation. Basically, everything that you can do. They have a full 3-dimensional view set. You can zoom in on all the pictures, and by that I mean you can even see the dust. If they haven't polished those guns, you'll know, because you'll see the fingerprint and the dust on the handle, on the grip. It's right there. Look, listen, great guns, great prices, great service. It's a veteran-owned, veteran-run company. Kurt was here just a few weeks ago at the house, hanging with me. We talked for the entire show, and then about 2 hours afterwards, he even left his jacket. I've been trying to get a hold of him since. Tar River Arms. Go to traguns.com. They have some of the greatest deals out there on guns today for everything that you need. Tar River Arms. That's traguns.com. Now, to the argument that you were about to propose, sir.
I've totally lost it now, so, if I don't know you're going to go into a read, that doesn't work.
That's exactly what I wanted to do. Yeah, I know. I don't want you to know what I'm going to read. I want you to hear it just as everybody else hears it. Now, let's get back to this guy and his stupidity.
If you need to talk about federalism today, steal the left's favorite word. You know what federalism is a synonym for? Diversity.
Whoa. Hold on. What?
Yeah, I did the same thing, and it's so funny to me. It's so funny to me that he decries states' rights as not a thing.
Yeah.
And then goes into a dissertation for a couple of seconds, goes into an aside about how they're a good thing.
Yeah.
Listen to this.
States' rights are a good thing. I mean, it's a good thing here.
That's exactly what federalism means. It means that we're a very big country.
Yes.
We're divided on a whole bunch of issues. We will not agree on everything.
Yeah.
Why not have 50 different models of governance?
Why not have libertarianism?
Which espouses a belief in federalism. Yeah. And having different laws in different states depending on what the people want.
So you've really just confused your entire argument into something completely different. Yeah.
Yeah, he is arguing against himself.
Now.
It's very easy to oppose him because he's doing it for me.
It's great, isn't it? Here, let's continue. Hold on.
Why not let Texas be Texas and then Vermont be Vermont?
I like that.
Why do we need to homogenize?
We don't.
Why can't we accept differences? Why won't we, to use Silicon Valley lingo, allow citizens to customize their government?
That's called libertarianism. Wait, that's called libertarianism once again.
He's going to tell us why that's bad.
Oh, okay.
Now, ultimately, though, you can't leave it at that, because we are not just 50 states.
Time out.
You can't leave it at that. Why? Why?
Okay.
That's actually how the Constitution was designed,
and
how our founders envisioned this nation, with the 13 states at that point, being the laboratories for freedom, for different forms of government.
No,
I mean, even at one point, we had some states that had established religions. The official religion of Maryland was Catholicism. The official religion of Pennsylvania was Quaker. I believe.
It was Quaker.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
In Massachusetts, they were Protestant by and large. So you actually had different established religions for each and every state, which was perfectly fine under the Constitution until the Supreme Court ruled the Supremacy Clause applied there.
Which is funny because he actually uses that argument later on in his speech.
He does. And it's a case of, okay, you're going to build your argument on a piece of Supreme Court case law that conservatives and Republicans and libertarians have all railed against for the last 50 some odd years
as
being bad law.
Because it is.
but it's settled law. That doesn't make it good law.
Look,
The
so
Dred
Jim
Scott
Crow
decision
laws were
was
settled law.
You know?
There are so many things that were settled law at the time. Slavery was a settled law. A law of the king, of beyond the Americans. Slavery was a settled law.
When I get the settled law argument, my head just wants to explode.
There is no such thing as settled law. Once again, man makes rules. Only God makes law. There's no such thing as settled law unless you're talking about the ones that we have to live by on a daily basis because our Creator made them. And he continues.
Politically, which is the most important one, is that we belong to a country. What is it that you want to conserve as a conservative? At the most fundamental level, it is your country.
Try again. Ding, ding, ding. We actually want to conserve
Freedom.
our freedom and our liberties and the Constitution of the United States. Do I want to preserve the country?
Yes,
Duh.
but only if that government, that country, preserves my rights, my freedoms as a person.
Without freedom, without liberty, without the Constitution, the United States of America ceases to exist
It's
as
no
it was
more.
founded.
It has
exactly.
ceased to be.
It is dead, sir. but that is the point here. What are you seeking to conserve as a conservative? We're seeking to conserve our country, yes. But if you're telling me that through the application of laws that are contrary to the freedoms and liberties guaranteed in our founding documents, we're doing this to conserve our country, it's not our country anymore once you do that.
Yeah.
What you have conserved is a shell, is a shadow of what was originally dreamt of by our founding fathers.
It's literally just a base understanding. It is the nothingness. It's a cicada's skin on the outside. It's a static, hollow nothingness attached to a piece of wood.
A dead husk. That's
basically
the phrase.
A husk of nothing. And that is
Yes.
that's what you're trying to preserve. No, that is not what you're trying to preserve. What you're trying to preserve are the rights of all individuals and their families. Now, he tries to use the argument very early on in this game that conservatives are family-oriented and libertarians are individualists.
These are mutually exclusive, apparently.
I don't think they are, because what's good for my family is also good for me.
And vice versa. I mean, I want
whatever's
the
good
freedoms
for me
that I
will
have.
be good for my family as long as I don't take it to some crazy excess.
If I do my job right,
Yeah.
then when I go to my grave, hopefully many years from now, my sons and my daughter live in a freer nation than I was born into.
Right.
Where their liberties are secured even further against the potential trampling of other people. And a paraphrase from the movie The Patriot, I know it's paraphrasing a non-historically accurate character portrayed by Mel Gibson.
That means
but
absolutely nothing.
Yeah, but it's still a good quote. The quote is, why am I going to trade one tyrant 3,000 miles away for 300 tyrants 10 miles away?
Exactly. There's no point in it. I mean, if we're going through, and the entire idea of this is we're going to preserve our government. No, that is preserving an institution. It is not preserving our freedoms, our faith, our understandings, our base reality in this world. It is not. It doesn't do anything to conserve an institution. It's like, we're conservatives. We're going to conserve Ford. No, it doesn't help us. Stop it.
Later on in the talk, and I apologize, I don't have this clip. That's on me, guys, because I was pulling clips for today's show.
Yep, he's the one that did it.
He goes on to say that the reason why government must step in and must conserve and uphold the moral values that are necessary to have posterity and to continue America is because the underpinnings of society which upheld them in years past, your civic organizations, your churches, they have all deteriorated and become decrepit and inactive. And
but why? Why is the question?
Why is the question? But here's the issue. If you are trusting your government to impose moral order on the populace, if you are utilizing the government to do that, as a conservative, you are no longer conserving the United States of America.
And he goes against his own argument right here in parts of the speech. He says, again, go to the worst parts of America. You will see lots of government and lots of individuals. You will not see mediating institutions. Now, I'm guessing by mediating institutions, he means something like, I don't know, the Heritage Foundation and things like that. But his entire point is, apparently libertarians are the individuals and the government institution is the government. And there's no conservatives in the middle, like help joining them together. That's not the point of conservatism. The point of conservatism is to actually follow the Constitution. You should be constitutional. You should understand. You should follow the ideas and conserve the freedoms that we have founded in the Constitution. That is conservative. Anything else is not.
And that it is not the place of the government to be moral, upstanding, and to set that societal example. It is to the individual people.
CharityMagnets.com. Use the promo code MOJO. You get $5 off on the purchase. Charity Magnets designs and produces beautiful, high-quality products for law enforcement supporters and enthusiasts. Their community, CharityMagnets.com, promo code MOJO, $5 off. But the entire point here, man, is that individuals and their internal communities are the ones that should be the moral fabric of our society. And what actually happened is that conservatives weren't conservative. They stopped following the Constitution, and they allowed people on the other side of the argument, the big government side of the argument, to step in and say, well, you know, you're supposed to, help the poor. Why don't we just help the poor as a government? And we do it this way. We'll tax a little bit, and we'll help the government. And then they said, well, you know what? Those organizations out there, they're not doing it right. So we're gonna make sure that they can't do what we do. We're gonna put stipulations, and we're gonna put barriers around those organizations and those civic organizations and everything like that. They're not going to be allowed to serve food that's been freshly made at somebody's house. They're not going to be allowed to serve food with too much sodium. They're not going to be allowed to do this. They're not going to be allowed to serve clothes in this manner. They're not going to... All of these regulations that have come down from our federal government, that's the reason why you don't see all of these civic institutions and everything like that. You also don't see it because the media doesn't care about those institutions and about those civic duties. All they want to portray is that, oh, the conservatives are mean, angry people that follow God and are Bible thumpers. That's all they want to say about conservatism and constitutionalism. But to say that you have on point that nobody in the conservative ideal is giving to these causes, you are exactly wrong. And we're still
the most generous giving nation in the world.
Only because of our libertarian conservative people. Because I don't know about you, but libertarians seem to give a lot more to causes and things like that than liberals do. And by that I mean Democrats. And conservative libertarians combined give the most per capita of their income. I mean, I think it's like a 20% difference overall in the average between liberals and conservatives. I mean, and they give to organizations that actually matter. They don't give to organizations that just ball up the money in administrative costs and things like that. They give to the best organizations out there that use their money to actually do things for the for people overall. It bothers me to no end, this guy, and I want to have him on because I want him to actually go through his argument, because it doesn't seem like he had a very cogent argument going through. If you look at the transcripts and you read his entire thing, he jumps from subject to subject to subject to subject. You got family, and then you got civics, and then you got economics, and then you got the wall. And then you got
drugs, you got abortion. I mean, he's all over the map.
All over the map, but at the same point in time, he always contradicts himself in the next paragraph when he says something about the differences between libertarianism and conservatism, or saying how conservatism is better than all the rest. You can't be a teacher and be this confounded.
And what it keeps bringing me back to, reading through his argument and re-listening to it, it causes me to think more on the so many things that conservatives and libertarians have in common,
right,
with one another. The ways that we enhance each other, the ways that we keep each other honest. You know, I don't know if you ever worked with K.E. Dean over at Lanterns, but I actually did a show with her called K.E. Keep Me Honest. Because she is more Christian conservative than I am. I'm more constitutional conservative, and you know, I'm of course a Christian, but I have more emphasis in my political views to constitutionality rather than Christian moralism. Kind of similar to what we're seeing today, the argument here. And we used to go back and forth and bounce back and forth, and it's that healthy engagement. It's that testing of one another's theses that allows us to take the thesis, the antithesis, and come up with the synthesis. It allows us to better our overall arguments. It allows for conservatives to see that the Constitution has a much more limiting aspect, and it allows libertarians to see that there's much more responsibility to our fellow man than perhaps they would have seen originally.
Right.
And we work so much better together to defy and oppose the concepts of collectivism and progressivism than either side ever could alone. I think it's just an enormous strategic mistake and philosophical mistake to seek to divest conservatives from libertarians in 2019.
I think you can sum up his argument in this statement that he made. Conservatism is about solidarity. We are not contrary to what a libertarian says, a random assemblage of individuals each going about their private lives consuming and having fun, which I don't know of any libertarian that would say their life is about consuming and having fun. That doesn't really make sense. But what I really think is, it goes on to exactly what you just said. He is trying to equate conservatism to groupthink.
Morally superior groupthink.
Yeah, morally superior groupthink above individualism and coming together on mutual ground for the right causes. And you know, here another thing about his argument here, he just in the next statement, in the next thing, he says, "We are a nation, and we are one nation under God. We are not a theocracy. All conservatives believe in the First Amendment, which means that every American, by the virtue of human beings, blah blah blah. We have established churches, but we don't think, you know." Anyway, he says we have no hostility toward religion as a country. That's not true. There's a lot of hostility now, and there continually will be. But that sound means that it's time for the show to end. Matt, tell them where they can find you.
www.theholonet.com and holonet.lanterns.buzz. Twitter at The Holonet.
And you can find us live on Mojo 50 every night, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. This time, all the time. Same bad time, same bad channel. Later, folks.
Later.